It's our first day today here. We're here today to look at our 3rd week process. Now we're here, the sun is shining, it's a better day, and we have our finished product, which I'm very excited to show you all. Hi everyone, we're here at a very exciting project. It's our first day today here, doing demolition today at the crack of dawn. We're up early and we're gonna get started. The first thing we do is the crew gets here, I get here, we discuss the project, go over everything with the customer before we get started, and then we get to putting everything up. So we put up some plastic walls, zipper them, make sure everything's kind of closed off, because although we're doing construction, not everybody has the opportunity to go off on a 6-week vacation or move to another house for the time being. So this is going to be a lived-in house during the renovation, and the homeowner here today is alone. Her husband is deployed, so she has all the kids, and we want to make sure it's a safe, comfortable environment for her during the renovation. Let's go and get the work started. So the crew is hard at work behind me, and what we're doing here is, since it's a farmhouse, we do want to keep the integrity of that and make sure that the character of the home isn't lost with the renovation. And we're gonna have a pretty big plan for here. We started off demolition by getting rid of all the cabinetry, countertops, pretty much what was already there. We set up a little kitchenette for our customer where she'd like, which is in her living room. We have her fridge and her microwave there so they can have a place to eat while the reno is being done. As I said, a lot of people like to live in the house while it's going on. The whole idea here is to open it all up, big open concept kitchen. We're gonna get rid of this wall, have it as one large space. We're actually gonna close off the laundry room wall. This pantry we're gonna get rid of, and the opening to the laundry is gonna be on the other side of this pantry over here. Another wall that we're knocking down is this one. The dining room's right behind me, and again, it's just super closed off. So we're gonna take it up to right here. They're gonna have to put a header in. This isn't load-bearing exterior wall, so they're gonna have to bring in this giant steel beam and run it across here, which is gonna be quite a challenge for the crew, but they'll get it done. And hopefully we'll have a nice big island where they can sit, enjoy their family meals. We'll enlarge the range and just give it a little bit more character. So we're having a white and blue theme in here. The island's gonna be blue. The main cabinetry is gonna be white. We're gonna have a nice crown molding. We're gonna have a farm sink to, of course, enhance the farmhouse vibe in here. And that's pretty much it. So when Sarah and I first met, we talked about what we could do with the space and how we could make the most out of it. This was pretty unusable for her just because it's pretty cold in here and it's just not up to date. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this wall down entirely, take the French doors down, have it all as one space. There is a level difference here because this was an addition, so the owners didn't bother bringing it up to the same level as the floor. We're gonna rise the entire floor to the same height as the rest of the house, and then with that being done, that creates the issue of how we're going to deal with this door here, because when you raise the floor, you can't just walk out into a 10-foot step. So what we're gonna do is put in a new door, make it all nice and neat. We're looking for a vintage door, so hopefully we can find something that kind of goes with the rest of the house here. So with the floor being raised, that brings this issue into question as to how are we gonna step out the door. So we're gonna have to put a completely new door in. We're hoping to get a farmhouse-like door to match everything else, and it's gonna be a really awesome look in here. Taking down a load-bearing wall is no easy work. We're gonna have to do quite a bit to make sure it's done the right way. The first step before we can even remove the wall is to put up a temporary wall. So we've set up some studs over there. The guys are gonna put up the temporary wall. They're gonna take down all of these, and then I don't know how they're gonna do it, but they're gonna lug in a giant steel beam, so we'll see how that goes. So we have this big, ugly bulkhead in the kitchen area, and we want to completely get rid of it, take the cabinets up to the ceiling with some pretty crown molding, and the guys are in there trying to see whether or not we can make sure that everything's good to go in there. So fingers crossed that it is, and we'll wait to find out. Will the step going outside be too high? I mean, look at this. This is the life right here. Their house is right around the corner. It doesn't even feel like we're, anywhere near to DC. We're out in the suburbs. It's just really, really nice to have a farm like this where you have a bunch of horses and the kids can run around and play. They have a tractor out here, so when it gets a little bit warmer, they ride around, do bonfires, and you can really just escape that city life when you come out here, come home, relax, get the bonfire going, and enjoy the view.
What about you?
You wouldn't think I do, but I do ride horses. I would get up on one, but they're not available right now. This big guy, though, I don't know if I would be able to ride him. He's pretty big. Yeah, you would have no idea. We're here today to look at our third week process, so come on in. We're back at the Clifton Farmhouse project. It's our third week here and we've made a pretty good amount of progress. I came back today to speak to Daniel and the guys about some details of the project. We discussed where our light switches are going, our outlets, and then some more of the details of, where we'll have some bulkheads, where we'll have some bump outs due to the new engineering of things. So we discussed all of those, got, our game plan figured out. We're pretty far along at this point, so we have the floor built up in the sunroom. All of our electrical plumbing has been rewired, so we're good to go there. We replaced all of the wiring in the kitchen area, so it's a fresh slate for them. I think we should do 3.
That's good. I got a lot though.
Yeah. So one issue that has come up in this project has been the beam. As we were ripping up some of the drywall above the ceiling, an unexpected beam exposed itself, requiring us to revisit the drawings with the engineer. And it turns out that the beam we got ordered initially is not going to be strong enough to carry the load of both the weights that we need it to carry. So we had to quickly get a new beam ordered. We got that done, and then we're just waiting for the hangers so the guys can put those up. But next week we should have about 15 guys out here trying to carry that thing inside, so that's going to be super exciting. 36-inch ring, so it'd be a 36-inch. but I'm gonna have the project manager look at the exact specs because I want it to be right, and maybe we can just recommend some because I know you're not super picky on it.
Well, you cover it up anyway.
Yeah. A couple things that are super important to keep in mind during construction is, first of all, everything needs to be aesthetically pleasing. Second of all, structurally stable. And third of all, mechanically stable as well. And that's everything that we have to keep in mind while we're putting things together. So one issue that came up was how we're gonna vent the hood outside due to the existing conditions of the framing. And Daniel had suggested actually going up and out, punching out through the laundry room space and carrying it out through there rather than going up through the top shelf of the cabinetry. That way, Sarah still has her cabinet space and the laundry room isn't that impacted by it because it's not gonna be a high traffic area and it's not someplace that is gonna be seen a lot. So it all worked out there, and it just comes down to those little details that make your day-to-day function of the cabinetry or the kitchen a little bit better. Every time we come out here, it's so nice. It's such a pretty day out today. Like spring is really on its way. So all the contractors and I, we're just super grateful to be out here and working on this project because a lot of the times in this area you don't get to be on farmland or have this much space to just really enjoy and soak in nature. It doesn't even feel like we're in like the Washington DC area. So it's just a beautiful day out and we're really excited to get this project going. I just spoke to Sarah, I don't know if you guys saw, about the little details that will go into the light fixtures. We've been looking for a light fixture forever, but it just takes time to find the right thing, and this is gonna be her forever home. So we looked at a couple options there. We were supposed to look at slabs today, but the supplier wasn't available, so that unfortunately got pushed back to Tuesday, but I got to see some of the really cool tables and stuff that Sarah's planning. Her husband is actually building their tables from scratch, which is so nice and such a great touch to have a story behind the pieces that they're gonna have in their home, because it's built just the way they want it to be and they can actually enjoy it with their friends and family for years to come. And we're so glad to take part in that and just be a helping hand. It's been over a week and we're back at the Farmhouse project here in Clifton. A lot of progress has actually happened, but there has been a period of waiting because we were waiting on the inspections to take place. So those took place and we passed and everything is good to go. I guess the biggest news is that the beam has finally been installed. Unfortunately, we weren't here to film it, but it was an intense process. They actually had to get it through the window, which was pretty crazy. And then there was a whole crew of people lifting it up at once because it weighs over a ton. So it wasn't easy. And then also, we ran into an issue earlier on where we found, since this is an older building, it's a farmhouse, not everything was kind of, so we opened up the ceiling and find an unexpected beam on the kitchen side, which was pretty unfortunate because the engineer had to come out and just recalculate everything to make sure it fits. It didn't, it wasn't sufficient enough to hold the weight, so we had to order a new beam, which we waited to come in, and then we had to revise the permits for the inspections, and we had to wait for the county to get back to us on that. So it took us a week to get here, but we're here, we're finally moving. Inspections passed, we had no issues there. We're pretty much at the kind of finished bare bones process right now. So we have a majority of the things in the places that they need to be. We have, you know, the plumbing relocated, the duct work, everything really. We're gonna get the flooring now, so I have to go find a match for that. And then we're gonna cover the beams in the same finish as the floor. We did have a pretty cool idea. We saw some pieces of like plywood just sitting on top of the brick walls around the sunroom, and then I asked Sarah, like, what does she think about just getting some wood and putting it on there? So I spoke to Daniel, and we're gonna add that in as just a nice little touch, and just to say that during the process, sometimes when you see some things coming along or you just happen to see two materials laying together, it just gives you the idea to add that into the project. So that's just one. I'm a little bit crazy about the details, so I had Daniel double check the cabinets for me for like the 17th time to make sure that everything is gonna align, and it does. So we're good to go with the cabinets. It's just kind of nerve-wracking because it comes down to every like quarter of an inch there. So hopefully when the cabinets are in, everything will kind of fall into place and go smooth. we're here. It's probably one of the most exciting days at the job because it's cabinet installation day, which is when the kitchen actually starts kind of looking like a kitchen. Once the cabinets are in, you can kind of visualize everything a little bit better. And we're here today making sure everything is laid out properly. So I'm going through all the layouts with all the contractors one by one, and we're drawing out where the cabinets are gonna line, figuring out the little details like where the moldings are gonna go, how it's gonna finish things off. It seems straightforward, but there's actually so many little details that go into it, especially with cabinetry. There are probably hundreds of options of how you can do things, and not everything is, doesn't have to be done a certain way. So it's kind of up to you and your taste and how you'd like to see things. So one of the cool features that we're gonna have here, one of the most exciting things about having an island is, first of all, this one is massive, but we also wanna make it look more like a furniture piece than just your traditional island. We're gonna do that by adding some baseboard molding that sits a little more flush with the face frame and is a little bit thicker, so it gives it some more dimension. And then on the other side here, where we have our smaller cabinets with the bookshelves in the middle, we're gonna have valances that'll kind of enhance that look as well. So you'll be able to see a little bit further inside, and it will kind of give it the look, open bookshelves over here. So we're super excited about that. It'll look more like a furniture piece if we don't.
Right.
And then we'll have the valances on this side.
Yeah.
So we did run into a little bit of an issue. When we ordered all these cabinets, we obviously had the lighter gray on the main cabinetry, and then for the island, we did a navy blue. And I triple checked the order, so I was pretty sure, but when I came here, they were like, we're missing 2 cabinets, and I was like, there's no way, because I see it on the design, I checked the order 50 times, and then they were like, well, we have them, but they're in the color gray. And then I obviously started second guessing myself. So I looked through the order again, and I was pretty relieved. Didn't have a heart attack because it wasn't my fault. They did actually send the wrong color. And in that case, they're obviously gonna take responsibility for it. We send some pictures, and then they're just gonna send us the new ones with an express shipment because we need them ASAP. So I just got off the phone with them, and we're not gonna let this stop us. We're gonna keep going. So what they'll do here is place these temporarily there so we can get the templates for the countertops. And then once the new ones come in, we switch them right out and we'll be good to go. How much are they?
They're like $199 a piece.
No, that's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
What
That's
color
why
are
I've been
they?
waiting for the
Sale.
sale.
Wow, look at this place. Welcome back to the Clifton house. We're here today. It's a beautiful sunny day. I know when we started it was drab and dark, both inside and outside. Now we're here, the sun is shining, it's a better day, and we have our finished product, which I'm very excited to show you all. I want to remind everybody of what this place was, because I know it's probably hard to remember with such an amazing transformation. We completely gutted the kitchen, basically the whole side of this house here. We removed our walls, we have our brand new beams that we've covered with wood and stained. We have a brand new dining nook over here, doubling as the breakfast area. We also have this massive island in front of me that took literally 7 people to get here. So a huge transformation has been made. We have our sink under our window again. The biggest thing here was really closing up the laundry entrance, creating a continuous wall of cabinetry, and creating a better workflow here. So we moved our fridge down on this side, and then we have this beautiful Ilvi range that gives it a more French touch to the space. As you may remember, it was a long process to get here because we had a lot of work to do, including the industrial beams that went in. We had some issues where once you open things up, you run into some surprises. So we ran into another beam because of how old the house is. Things like this can be expected with a renovation, especially, with a house that has aged a little bit more over time. We did press a lot about these beams that we put in, so that was a huge step in the project for us in determining how to get them in, how to get them up. It took a lot of manpower to do that, but we're here today. We decided to beef up both beams because one of them was going to be this thick due to the size of it. We did end up deciding to beef the other one up too, although it didn't need to be as large, just to balance out the space and make it look a little bit more cohesive. A lot of decisions went in throughout the process. We ended up picking out these stools that complement both the floor and the rest of the kitchen so well. This light fixture here was actually handmade, and it took a while to find the right fixture. The homeowner, Sarah herself, actually was a huge help in that, in picking that out, and she had a vision, and we went back and forth a lot, but I think the end result is amazing. It takes a lot of effort from both the homeowner and the contractor and designer to really put everything together, and it was great working with this client because they're into DIYs and doing things themselves. So a nice touch that complements the kitchen space is the dining table that they built from scratch themselves, and other things like adding some shiplap to the walls, because this is a farmhouse and we are on an actual farm, but we didn't want everything to be so rustic in the sense that everything screams that classic farmhouse. We wanted to add a more modern French country look to it, which I think we've been able to accomplish with the details of having a mitered edge on the counter, which again modernizes things. We have these beautiful light fixtures that were handmade in Richmond, and once we saw those, we knew they were perfect for the space. There's not a single other light fixture that I can imagine here to replace those. I mean, another thought that was put into it was these light fixtures here, the sconces above the window, they just add another touch of warmth and take away from the whites and grays. So we have those with a clear glass shade. The details are very, very important in every project, and a lot of things came down to decisions that we make together. These glass doors were added in to just bring in some more light and break up the solid cabinetry. We added some lights in there so they shine through. We have this beautiful hood that ties in the shiplap that we have in the living room. We went back and forth about staining it or keeping it this color, and I think it was a good decision because it gives it a very clean effect. Originally, the customer has to decide where the budget's going, and some things you want to splurge on, some things we need to cut back on, and the appliances were one of the things that were kind of up in the air because there was so much else that we wanted to get into the space, and sometimes it's easier to just throw in new appliances. But we got lucky enough where their family decided to gift them this beautiful cafe fridge that, again, looks so much better because once you have a new space, the old stuff really sticks out. And I think it really enhanced the look, and it's a counter depth fridge, which is super important because it just doesn't break up that line of symmetry and doesn't stick out as much. The interior of the cabinets are very important here as well. Functionality is everything in a kitchen. Of course, symmetry, the beauty of it. We already knew that the kitchen was gonna be beautiful, symmetric, and the finishes were gonna be great, but we wanted to add that functionality too, because this is a used kitchen and a family lives here, so it gets used every day, and we wanted to make it as easy as possible. So some of the things that we added in are like these corner drawers, rather than having a lazy Susan, can be super helpful. They reach quite far back, and the bottom two are a little bit deeper. So it can be easier to organize things like Tupperware, smaller glasses, rather than dropping things in the corner and having trouble finding it later on. Other things like the microwave, you might be wondering where that is, and we actually hid that in this cabinet because they didn't want it to be open and out. And it's not as used in the space, so we have that down there. And then we have large drawers for the pots and pans. And it just makes storage way easier. A lot of these things can get cluttered pretty easily, so having a space for everything is super important. I mean, we have a spice rack in a fairly close distance to the range, so it's easy to just grab stuff here and cook with it, and it has a spot to go back in. So we're trying to eliminate as much as we can off the counters and give you a clean workspace. Another great touch in a farmhouse is a farmhouse sink, which we've added in here. This is a more simple farmhouse sink, just because, again, we don't want to go for that overly ornate look, because we're looking at a more modern farmhouse. Same thing with the backsplash. We did a nice Subway backsplash that has a ceramic glaze on there to give it some texture, and divide up all the gray that we have with the cabinetry. I think this is a really great color when you do want to go gray, but you don't want anything too stark or cold, because in some lights it can tend to look a lot more warm and in the white range. So I think that was a great touch. And the details, like having these decorative doors on the ends, make all the difference. We try to plan out as much as we can ahead of time, but some things are left to the job site and the construction process. So we didn't know exactly how big the space was gonna be until the beams were in, and we had to improvise a little bit. We didn't want to do a cabinet because obviously the height is cut here. So the solution we came up was to have some shelving in the corner there with these beautiful brackets that we got from West Elm, again tying in that modern touch. And we're just trying to use all of the space that we can, even though it might not be things for cookware, it can still add a nice touch to the overall look of the kitchen. A big part of the decision for the countertops was a marble. It took us a very long time to find the right piece. As you can see, we have a massive island, and we really don't want to have any seams. It's ideal not to. It's a place for gunk to build up, and it just kind of breaks it up. So we found this beautiful marble. To be honest, we weren't very sure at first, but the second we saw it being cut and put into place, it looks absolutely incredible. There are some sparkles shining through, there are the grays, there are the whites, but it's not overwhelming. We used the more dramatic piece on the island here, and the more subtle pieces around the kitchen area to keep it a little bit more white. When you have a lot of cabinetry, it can look a little dull and boring, so we wanted to spice things up with having the open shelving on either side of the island. You can put books, you can store smaller knickknacks. It's just a fun space to add some color and interest. We did take advantage of all the space though, because even though we have the bookshelves here, we still have space for additional storage. It might not seem like much, but all of the space collectively, you can get everything off the counters, and everything has a hidden spot so you don't have to look at it all the time. Even back here underneath the stools, it's not as accessible on the daily, but you can store your cookbooks that you don't use as often, Christmas items, holiday items that just don't need to to have another place in the house. So they're all stored under here, very detail oriented. So one of the biggest, it's not a big touch, but it's something that made a difference in my opinion, is having these outlets. I had to source these and they ended up being the perfect shade of blue to work in there. We had originally tried putting in black ones and just stood out so much. Changing it out to these made a big difference because they don't stick out and you barely notice them. But you know, if you're sitting here and the kids are having lunch, they can charge their phone or their iPad. Gives you some electrical on there. Every kitchen needs a pantry, and it all just depends on personal preference of how big of a pantry you might need or want. And for Sarah and Tyler, this was the perfect size for them. We have some rollout trays in here, just making things more accessible. Instead of having to dig back there, they can just pull it out, grab whatever they need and close it. It also helps when you have younger kids who might not be as organized and they just run in and try to grab stuff. It's easier for them to get to things without messing up your entire kitchen. So it's great it's a kid-friendly pantry. Another touch was, of course, this range. It's actually our first time using this brand. It's a lot more affordable compared to some others in the same style. So instead of paying, you know, $15,000, $20,000 per range, you can get away with paying $3,000 to $5,000 and still have a very beautiful and functional stove. We pulled a gas line here, so they have a gas stove, which can make a difference in cooking. It heats up faster and gives you a more even burn. So that was a nice touch here. And then we have these large drawers. Drawers can mean everything in a kitchen. It's way easier to store things. Again, it's that rollout effect where you pull things out and can easily access them rather than having to dick around. I know I touched up on the glass door, but another thing that's helpful here is instead of having full glass, I had the cabinets customized and split. It's actually still one cabinet, but there is a stile in between. But this, again, allows you to use the actual functional side of the storage and then the upper shelves that are a little less usable as a decorative accent in here. This may not seem like a major part of the renovation, but it did make all the difference here because we were able to use this space, as I mentioned before, to enlarge the kitchen area by giving it that long, consistent wall instead of having an entrance into the laundry room in the middle of the hallway. So I thought to move the door here where I am standing now, and we put in this beautiful stained wood door with the glass to, again, bring some light in. A nice touch with a vintage doorknob here, which was actually more of a pain to put in, and didn't think it would be such a difficult process, but it's sometimes the little things that can hold you up or create issues, but we're always here to solve the problem and figure out what the best way to approach things are. So we had to go through a few different doorknobs to find the right one here, but it's okay because it's always worth it at the end of the day. Another point I wanted to touch up on is how we vented things out. So we had some HVAC work that needed to be done here. We bumped this wall out and then put in this soffit to carry out the exhaust fan because we don't have room above to do so, and it's not on an exterior wall. So we had it kind of disrupt the space in the laundry room and slash mudroom that isn't as used or isn't as aesthetically important. We still try to make it as clean and neat as possible, but that's one element that was involved in the overall renovation. We had to do some patchwork here with the floor because once we ripped down the wall, we had to salvage some of the tiles and put them back, and I think we did a pretty good job with that because you can barely tell. And then just adding a nice light fixture or two, again, just enhances the space. It's not as important of a space because guests aren't coming in through here. It's more so a functional space, so we still have the washer and dryer where it was, but now you're not cramped coming in, or if the kids are coming in from the pool, they're not all piling up on top of each other. You have a nice long hallway to walk in. Alrighty, so we've closed another chapter in our renovation book. I'm very excited and honored to have been able to work with the homeowners and create such a beautiful project. Each of them are truly my babies, and this has been a pretty big baby for me, so I'm very excited and thankful to be a part of this. I think we ended on a very good note and ended up with a very beautiful project here, so Thanks so much for watching, and one of the biggest reasons we do these videos are to show our new and potential clients what we're capable of doing. And I know on HGTV it may seem like everything gets done the snap of a finger, and I truly wish it was that way, but realistically a lot of hard work, thought, just blood, sweat, and tears goes into projects like these. It's a teamwork process, and we work really hard to make your dreams come true and create the space that you've always imagined. So we're here if you would like your dreams to be accomplished and you have ideas of your own. Happy to help you guys out and create your own oasis. Thanks so much for watching, and we're excited to show you more projects in the future. If you have one of your own, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.